So, Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. This is the fourth episode of Pragmatic Bhakti Sutra. And in this episode, we are going to cover verses 10, 11, and 12. So, before we start, let us say the prayer to the Guru and God. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome. So, who remembers what was the last thing we learned?
Yeah, it's about Bhakti, renunciation. Bhakti is divine love and how it is like selfless. And instead of thinking of making ourselves happy, we need to perform our duty to make God happy. Like we should do what pleases God. So that will help us in overcoming our desires. And as you said, desire will depart when devotion enters. And we should, and also we discussed that renunciation is a invariable characteristic of divine love. So it's important to have, when we align ourselves in the right path, going back to Godhead, I think we can overcome this desire.
Excellent. Totally impressed. Thank you so much, Sulata ji. So, yeah, the main point was, as you rightly said, making room for God, because we are so full of ourselves that there is no room for God. जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं, अब हरि है तो मैं नहीं. प्रेम गली अति सांकरी जामे दो न समाही. That is the kind of gist of what we were discussing in the last few verses. We also went through the Navada Bhakti from Ramcharitmanas. So I think my humble request is the Navada Bhakti itself, if you can take a printout, keep it in front of you. It's in part of the notes that I've shared. Or if you don't have it, I can send it again. Even the Navada Bhakti, just take a printout, keep it and keep looking at it. That way, every day, at least one of the 9 aspects of Bhakti, we can keep remembering or reminding. Like Lord Rama says, talks about satsanga, he talks about service to association, he talks about not having pride, he talks about not finding faults in people, so many aspects. So today we can start with Shloka 10. Are you all ready? So you want to follow? Let us start. Anyāśrayāṇāṁ tyāgo'nanyatā. Which means wholehearted or Ananya devotion. Means what that does, that means one of the aspects of Ananya Bhakti, which is what Lord Krishna also has been saying many times in the Bhagavad Gita. And here Narad Ji also says the same thing. And he's explaining another aspect of Ananya Bhakti, which means in this Shloka, Narad Ji says, one of the aspects of Ananya Bhakti means you rely solely on God for support. And you give up the need for all other types of support. See, usually when we, in our lives, one of the causes of worry for most of us is we are worried about, will my parents support me? That was one of our worries when we were young. And then will my wife support me? That was the next stage of our life. And then we graduate. And then will my children support me? That's one aspect of it. We are always worried about support. And then we are worried if our friends will support us. We are worried if our community will support us. See? So what Narad Ji is saying is, in Ananya Bhakti, you shouldn't worry about any of these kinds of support. I mean, it's good if you have. Narad Ji is not saying support is bad. What Narad Ji is saying is, you are not relying on that. You are not depending on that. So Ananya Bhakti, one of the aspects Narad Ji says, is a state of mind where you are saying that God is my only support. God is my true support. Whatever is going to happen is going to be happening based on God's grace. So that is one aspect of total surrender. When will this total surrender be possible? When you have humility and when you don't have any kind of pride. and you should have complete faith in God. All of these things, I think Krishna has also said in different words. Now, Narad Ji is zooming in on that, and he's saying how these things impact our Ananya Bhakti. And in this mindset, we attract the grace of God. And once we have the grace of God, why do we need any other support? Why do we need anything else? Correct? So usually we may think that wealth or social status or fame, we think they all can give us some kind of security. Sometimes people are trying to save a lot of money because they think that is what is going to help them. That is what is going to support them. We have heard so many stories of people discovering pots of coins, pots of gold that somebody buried in the field hundreds of years ago. Because whoever buried it, they thought that that is what is going to help them. That is what is going to be their support. But what happened? That remained buried. That person went somewhere else, right? So that is just one aspect of it. So ultimately, we have to realize that no matter how much wealth you have, no matter what kind of social status we have, we are still insecure. We can never get security by any of these means. The only way we can have true security is when you get the grace of God, when God becomes your source of support. That is the true security. That is what the Bhakti yogis are always seeking for. That is one aspect of Ananya Bhakti. See, this is another aspect of Ananya Bhakti which Narad Ji is explaining, that we cannot attain God through our own efforts. That notion has to go away. You cannot say that I have been waking up early, I have been doing bhajan, I have been going to temple on every weekend, so now I am eligible for God's grace. No, it doesn't work like that. Because there again, you are relying on your own ego. That is your own pride. That is coming and saying, I did something and that is why now I have to have God's grace. I helped 10 people. I helped my mother-in-law. I helped my father-in-law. I helped my mother. Whatever. But when you have this mindset that because I did that, now I become eligible for God's grace, Narad Ji is saying that is not the path, because when we are in that mindset, it is our pride which is talking, which is our ego which is talking. So this is, I think, another aspect. See, I hope you are able to see the beauty and the depth, because we have taken one shloka of Lord Shri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is karmanyavadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. We have taken that one verse. I don't know how many people are keeping track of how many different aspects of it we have already covered. This is yet another aspect. So yet another aspect is keep doing good deeds, but don't be attached to the outcome. In other words, do your bhajan, do your puja, do your seva, help your parents, help everybody. But don't get into a mindset that because I did that, now I have to have God's grace. That is yet another aspect of that same popular shloka. You see, because the mindset that we need to have is what I do is irrelevant. I have to just keep doing my duty as per Krishna's teachings. That is what I'm supposed to do. At every point, ask what is my duty, what is the right thing to do, and just go and do it. But whether you get the grace of God is entirely dependent on God. It is not dependent on you. If we can be in that mindset, then we are on the path to Ananya Bhakti. So the point is, it's good to do good deeds. But the kind of game of Maya is, if you think you are eligible for God's grace because of something that you did, then God's grace is going to just keep getting further and further away from us. I hope this makes sense. So in Shloka 9, Devarishi Narad Ji used a term, udasinata. I hope you remember, which means indifference towards everything that goes against our devotion to God. Remember that? So Narad Ji said, we have to pursue everything that is aligned with our devotion to God. And anything which is not aligned with devotion to God, Narad Ji said, just be indifferent to that. So now in the next shloka, Narad Ji is going to explain that further. So let us go through shloka 11. Lokavedeshu tad anukulacharanam tad virodhi sudasinata. Tad virodhi sudasinata. So which means actions which are congenial to him, and indifference to all actions that are hostile to him. Is this just what we discussed now? Narad Ji says that from the Vedas, you choose that portion which is aligned with the path of bhakti. See, I'll give you a example, because a lot of us know about software. I mean, a lot of us have used at least mobile phones and updated software, right? So consider the Vedas to be somewhat like a user manual. So if you look at the user manual of any software, it will say, oh, if you have Windows, download this. If you have Mac, download this. If you have Android, download this. At least this much you might have come across in life. Now, what happens if you are on Windows and you try to download the Android version? It's just not going to serve you. I mean, you are just downloading the wrong thing for the wrong platform. It's just not going to serve the purpose. Just like that, in Vedas, there are different sections meant for different reasons. Now, if you want to succeed on the path to Bhakti Yoga, but you are looking at the wrong places in the Veda and following the wrong parts of the Veda, that's not going to serve you. You have to choose only those parts which are going to serve you on the path to Bhakti Yoga. That is Narad Ji's message. What happens is, instead of choosing Ananya Bhakti, people usually choose to follow rituals. Why? Short-term benefits, immediate benefits. Because we are all merchants. We are all businessmen. Whenever we come across any situation or any person, the first thought that comes to our mind is, what can I gain from it? That comes very naturally to us, right? So if somebody says, do this, if somebody says, chant Hare Krishna, the first question, how am I going to benefit from that? Why should I do that? Or if somebody says, attend the sessions regularly, but why? Faida kya hai? So that vyavaharik nature causes us to choose rituals. Because it is written, if you break a nariyal, you will get something. If you go and donate so much rupees, then you may get something. If you do this yajna, you will get a son. If you do that yajna, you will get power. That is how the ritualistic aspects of the Vedas are. They are for a different purpose. We discussed that already. So Narad Ji is saying, what do you run behind all of that? What is the core essence of the teaching here? The core essence is, we have to choose what is good versus what seems pleasant or easy. Now, let us explain this a little more. I don't know, most of you might have heard the story of Nachiketa. Nachiketa is a protagonist, is a central theme of Katha Upanishad, is around Nachiketa. So the story is, I will just make it short. You can read about Nachiketa, the full story, and maybe one of you can take it up as an assignment and summarize the whole story for us. I'm not going to force you, but it's a good story to read when you have spare time. But the short version is, Nachiketa goes to visit Yamaraj, the god of death. And his intention is, he wants to find answers to some key questions. So when he meets Yama, he asked him some questions. What are the questions? His question was related to, explain me about life after death. Explain me about soul. Explain me the secrets of salvation. No, Yamaraj was taken aback. Yamaraj didn't expect this from a child. He's not expecting these tough questions from a kid. And Yamaraj also considers that this is like super confidential knowledge. How can I just give these answers to just a kid who just comes walking through my door, right? So Yamaraj tries to trick the kid. I will give you kingdom, a big kingdom. Okay, I will give you treasures. I will give you, what do you want? Do you want jewels? Do you want gems? Do you want money? I can even give you heaven if you want. But Nachiketa is not just any normal kid. So he's very firm. He tells Yamaraj, what am I going to do with heaven? I'm not interested in all of that. All I want is the answers to my questions. Can you please answer my questions? So Yamaraj gets pleased. What is he pleased with? He is pleased with the conviction, as we have discussed earlier also. The most important aspect is conviction. Do you have the conviction? Or is it all just convenience? Nachiketa had the conviction, and that pleased Yamaraj. So what does Yamaraj tell Nachiketa? It's very important. Let me read that. This is Yamaraj's statement to Nachiketa. Yamaraj says, the good is one thing and the pleasant is another. These two having different ends, bind a man. It is well with him who chooses good. He who chooses pleasant misses the true end. The good and the pleasant approach man. The wise examines both, discriminates between them, and prefer the good, whereas the foolish, they prefer the pleasant because of the love of bodily pleasure. What is the key essence again? The key essence of what Yamaraj told Nachiketa is what Narad Ji is also telling us in the Shloka is the choice whenever we choose the pleasant instead of choosing the good. It causes miseries and downfall in the long term. Short-term benefits, okay. But long-term, it's going to cause miseries. Does it ring a bell? Have we discussed anything similar to this in the earlier? Sulata ji is shaking her head. Sulata ji, anything similar you recollect?
Yeah. How you gave the example of 5 those animals how falling into the sense that
Matanga,
how they
Puranga,
rule.
Patanga. Yes. But more recently, we discussed about the concept of Shreya and Preya. This is the main difference. Shreya means you are choosing what is good. It may not be pleasant. It's like choosing to eat Karela, bitter gourd. It is not pleasant. It is bitter. It is repulsive. But it is what is good for your health. Whereas if you want to choose to eat gulab jamun every day in the morning, it is very pleasant. But it is not going to serve you well. In the long run, it's going to create problems for you. So it seems very simple, but it's extremely important and potent. This is the message that Yamaraj gave Nachiketa. He said, the wise should always choose the good. You should always choose Shreya. So that is where you should use your intellect. So now if we tie all the dots together, given a choice between some rituals that provide immediate benefits versus Ananya Bhakti, which doesn't seem to provide any immediate benefits, which one will you choose? Yeah, you can unmute. Ananya Bhakti. Does it now make sense?
Ananya.
Or now does the shloka from Bhagavad Gita make more sense? Where Lord Krishna told Arjuna, don't run behind those rituals. He spoke about Mohakalilam. At that time, it may have sounded a little confusing. Why is Krishna saying don't follow rituals? Because they are written in Vedas and everybody says Vedas are given by God. But I hope that makes more sense now. Because all Krishna is saying is, those rituals are prayer. They will give you short-term benefits. That is their purpose. But they will take you away from God, the true God realization. Is that not your ultimate goal? That is what Narad Ji is also saying in this shloka here. Any questions so far? Feel free, raise your hands if you have any questions. Yes, Sulata ji.
Yeah, so these rituals and all have to be used to make the atmosphere favorable to you to progress in Bhakti Marga. Then it is fine, isn't it?
Excellent.
Yes.
Yes. So that is exactly what Narad Ji is saying. Narad Ji is saying, pick any ritual or pick anything from the Vedas that helps you align with your Bhakti Marga, that helps you align with your goal of Ananya Bhakti. And be indifferent to others. If there is a ritual that says you do this and tomorrow you may, get a few rupees from somewhere, avoid that because that is not aligned with Bhakti. That is all Narad Ji is saying. So excellent question. Thank you. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it mentions this shloka, which is originally also present in the Padma Purana. So I'll try to read that shloka. Smartavya satatam Vishnur, Vismartavyo na jatuchit, Sarve vidhi nisedaha, Siyur, Etayor eva kinkaraha. What that means is very simple. It says, Vishnu should always be remembered and Vishnu should never be forgotten. Very simple. 2 rules. Rule 1, always remember Vishnu. Rule 2, never forget Vishnu. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras, they should be a servant of these 2 principles. So if any ritual or anything in the Shastra or Vedas does not seem to serve these 2 principles, then you discard them. Be indifferent to them. I think it's making things even more clear, right? So basically, to answer Sulataji's question, that is what Narad Ji is also saying. So whenever you want to do a ritual, ask yourself a question. Is this ritual helping me with these two principles? Principle one, is it helping me always remember Krishna or Vishnu? And point number two, is it making sure I will never forget Krishna or Vishnu? If the answer is yes, go ahead and follow it. If the answer is no, be indifferent to it. See, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful story of one of Sri Krishna's Leelas. So basically, Krishna is in the forest with his gang, the naughty gang. And they are in the forest, they are having a nice time. And all his gang members, the kids, they come to Krishna and they start complaining. They are like, Krishna, we have been playing all day. No, we are so hungry. We are so thirsty. Why don't you take care of us? And Krishna says, actually, I'm also very hungry. And my brother Balaram, you know how hungry he gets, right? And he says, he's also super hungry. So the kid says, okay, then what do we do? Everybody is hungry. So Krishna says, just close by, there is a small village where there are Brahmanas who are performing rituals. And this is all part of Krishna's Leela. So Krishna knows what he is doing. So basically, there was a village. So in olden days, every village had a particular hereditary, like for example, all Yadavs will have one village, all Shuklas will be in one village, and so on and so forth, right? So like that one village was full of a particular kind of Brahmins who were scholars in the ritualistic aspect of Vedas. So they know exactly what rituals you need to perform to get what benefit. And they were busy performing those rituals. So he sends all the kids to that particular place and he says, go tell those Brahmanas that Krishna and Balaram are very hungry and they need to arrange some food. So the kids obediently, they go and they see these Brahmanas getting ready to perform rituals. And so they go and they bow and they say, oh, Brahmana, our Krishna ji and Balaram ji are very hungry. Can you take care of some food for us? And so the Brahmins get pretty annoyed. They irritated. They're like, we are getting ready to perform yajna. And these stupid children are coming and talking about feeling hungry and food and all. They just shoo them away. Go away. I mean, these are kids. And in those days, everybody were afraid of Brahmanas. They didn't want them to curse them. So they run away. They come to Krishna and they say, Krishna, where did you send us? Those Brahmins, they just shoot us away. Now what do we do? Your plan is failing. Then Krishna smiles. Krishna says, okay, now go to their wives. They will be in their homes. Go to their wives and tell the same thing to them. Obediently, these kids now go. They go to the wives now. And they say, Mataji, Krishna and Balaram are very hungry. Can you help us with some food? As soon as the women hear this, they drop everything that they are doing. They gather whatever food they can gather, whatever water is available, and they run. They run towards where Krishna and Balaram is. And they go and give them this food and they take care of them. Now, what is the moral of this story? The moral is the Brahmins were focused on the rituals, whereas the women, they were already following these two core principles that the rituals should have served. Because these women were already remembering Vishnu all the time. They were already ready to serve Vishnu. They always wanted opportunities to serve God. That is the purpose which these women were already following. Whereas these Brahmanas were focusing on the rituals, which should have actually served the same purpose. Later on, the story is documented that Lord Krishna then takes mercy on these people and he gives a glimpse. That is yet another instance where he shows his Vishwarupa Darshanam, but it's not that grand. It's a glimpse, but still he gives a glimpse of his divine form to those Brahmins. Now, how do the Brahmins react? That is documented in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Brahmins are pretty upset with what they did. It's a very beautiful shloka. It comes in the 10th canto. I can give you the number if you want. You can read it yourself. So the Brahmanas, they are in despair. They say, Dik janma nastri vridd yattad dik vratam dik bahudnatam dik kulam dik kriya dakshayam vimukaye tvadokshache. What they are saying, the word dik is used everywhere. Dik basically is kind of dikkar. The word dikkar came from dik. the Sanskrit word. So they are basically saying, shame on our threefold birth, our vow of celibacy, and our extensive learning. Shame on our aristocratic background and our expertise in the rituals of sacrifice. These are all condemned because we were ignorant and turned away from realizing Vishnu. See, who is making these statements? These statements are being made by the same Brahmanas who are the absolute experts in the ritualistic aspect of Vedas. And they come to the realization that this is all pointless and useless because it has not served them realize the real value of rituals, what they are supposed to do. That is the message of Narad Ji. Narad Ji says, don't run behind those rituals. They don't serve your purpose towards Ananya. You see, Ramakrishna used to give an example, another interesting example. So Ramakrishna's example is, usually the wife of the house will give a list to the husband saying, you are going to a shop, just get these 10 things. Because they know the husbands don't remember things, so they will write it down. And they will say, don't forget, these are the 10 things you have to get. And they will be very, very particular. Get this from this shop, get this from that shop. And it will be very, very specific list. Today don't get too much tomatoes, get just 4 tomatoes. Today we need more of brinjals and so on and so forth, right? And the husband, poor fellow, he will dutifully follow all the instructions, buy everything from the places, the quantity, everything is following the exactly every detail, right? And he comes home, he gives everything to the wife. Hopefully the wife is happy. So let's say the wife is happy. She's like, oh, thank you. You took care of everything, right? So far, so good. Happy ending. After this, what is the use of that list? Does that guy need that list anymore? I mean, the job is done because as women, you all know, like no two lists are the same. Like next time you send him to the shop, your list is going to be different. So what use is that list? Now imagine that guy is attached to that list. See, that is the same way these rituals are. They are there for some specific purpose. Don't get attached to them. So that is the example Ramakrishna is also giving, basically. See, so many saints are giving the same message in so many different ways to help us understand. We are not saying disrespect the Vedas. We are not saying disrespect the rituals. We are not saying look down upon them. All we are saying is they are there for a purpose. Understand what that purpose is. And then understand what your goal is and what you want to achieve. And because you are all students of Bhakti Yoga, it is understood that you want to achieve Ananya Bhakti. So now that you know that is the goal, then please don't get attached to rituals which don't serve that purpose. Simple. Okay. You have stamina for one more shloka and then we can wrap it up. Okay, cool. So let's go to shloka number 12. Bhavatu nishchaya.
Bhavatu nishchaya.
Dardayat urdhvam.
Dardayat urdhvam.
Shastra rakshanam.
Shastra rakshanam.
So this is an important verse. I wanted to complete this because it kind of gives the right conclusion to the previous verse. So what does this mean? It basically means we also have to assume the duty of protecting the scriptures. That is what this means. For some reason, I don't have the explanation, but I know what it means. This is what it means. We should also consider that protecting the scriptures is important. It is everybody's duty. We will see why Narad Ji is saying this. Because especially in the previous shloka, it may seem, we may misunderstand it as saying the scriptures are not important. That is not the message. And that is why this shloka is important, where Narad Ji is trying to clear any doubts there. The scriptures we discussed earlier, the scriptures are like ladders. Anybody who needs to climb to the first floor, they need the ladder. But if you are already on the first floor, then that ladder has served the purpose. Now you have to let go of that ladder and move on and try to find your path. That is the whole message. But at the same time, just because you have gone where you needed to go, doesn't mean the ladder is not important. It is important for all those other people who are still on the lower planes and they need to climb up. So you have to consider it your duty to protect that ladder or find ways in which the ladder is protected. So don't go ahead and start preaching that the ladders are useless. That is not the message. That is what Narad Ji is also saying. Now, according to the Varnashrama Dharma, you know what is Varnashrama Dharma? We discussed that in Bhagavad Gita. This is also established by Sri Krishna. So according to that Varnashrama Dharma, one less known fact is that everybody has 5 dharmic debts, which are known as pancharina. And we have to pay those debts during our lifetime. What are those debts? The first debt is called as devarina, which is a debt to devas and deities. For example, the air we breathe, the sunlight that we cherish, the rains that we need, etc. They are all associated with various devas or deities. So how do you pay this debt to these deities? One of the ways is by righteous living. In other words, live a dharmic life. Do your religious duties as well as worship and chant the holy name. That is how we clear this debt. So if you see, chanting of holy name pretty much is a superpower. Apart from purifying you, it is also helping you clear this debt to the devas and deities. The second debt is called rishi rina. It means debt to the holy saints and sages. See, because we owe the saints and sages for all the knowledge they have imparted and all the guidance that they have provided to humanity, right? See, even the Bhagavad Gita was written by Vedavyas. This Bhakti Sutra that we are learning was written by Narad Ji. They are all saints and sages. I mean, because of them today, this knowledge is available to us. So there is a debt, a rin, that we have to pay for these sages. How do we clear this rin? So you clear this rin by studying and acquiring this knowledge and offering your thanks and serving those who impart the knowledge. And you have to also again live a dharmic life. So 3 things. One is always be thankful and grateful to these sages and saints for all the knowledge that they have created. Second is be thankful and try to serve people who impart the knowledge. And third, again, live a dharmic life based on those teachings. So if you follow, that is why Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan is all the more important. It is not just because you grow on the spiritual path. It is also because you have a debt to pay. You have to clear that debt. And by Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, if you do it sincerely, that is another way of paying the debt. Rishirina. The third is Pitririna, which is debt to parents and ancestors. Of course, needless to say, we owe our human life to our ancestors. So that is why we have to be thankful to them. And clearing that debt is relatively easy. You just have to continue growing their lineage. So this is one of the reasons why we were very careful about the marriage. They were very particular about where you marry, which caste you marry, or which gotra you marry. One of the scientific reason is there. In other words, it's a slight diversion, but it is important, so I can cover it. During marriage, we always look at gotra. So the word sagodara or sagodaran basically means sagotra, means you share the same gotra. So if you share the same gotra, the chances are extremely high that you are like brothers and sisters because your DNA is so closely related. And modern science is proving that if you marry with very closely tied relatives, then your offsprings may have some deformities or challenges. So there is a term also used in modern medical science. It is called consanguineous marriage. So when you have a consanguineous marriage, then the offsprings will suffer. But this is exactly what our ancient sages thousands of years ago, they determined and they said the gotra is important. The other reason was you want to make sure that you are expanding the lineage. You are not disrupting the... So it shouldn't happen that your grandchild don't even know who their grandparents were. That is not fair. So that interrupts our payment of debt, the pitririna. So that is one of the reasons. So, okay. What is the other way to pay that rin is just be dutiful to your parents. So there are some rituals are there in the Vedas, like Lakshmi ji may know more about it. So there are rituals that talk about how to take care of, like Davasam is one of them.
Sraddam,
Davasam, Darpanam. There are many different rituals, but they are all meant for clearing the debt, Pitrurin. So you are not doing it because you are expecting some positive gains. You are doing it just because you have to clear some debts. That is your duty. So just do it as a duty and then don't expect any returns. The fourth is Manushyarin. It may sound silly, but it's kind of very important. Manushyarin is debt to humanity. How can you clear this debt? You clear this debt by treating everyone with respect, practicing non-violence. See, non-violence is a virtue for one more reason. Because when you practice non-violence, that is another way of clearing Manushyarin. You are clearing, paying off that debt. And you will do whatever is necessary to make sure that humanity thrives. So whatever contributions you can make to help humanity thrive is another way to clear the Manushyarin. And then the fifth debt is Bhutarin, which is debt to nature. How do you clear this debt? It is by being environmentally friendly. You have to live in harmony with nature. Don't destroy nature. And try to make sure that your future generation also gets to be in good environment and nature and surroundings and all of that. So that is how we clear the fifth rin. Why are we discussing these 5 rins? Because we are going to be stuck in the material world as long as we have not cleared these debts. So liberation, one of the aspects of liberation is this. It's not just your karma. Your karma is one part of it. The other part of it is your debts. Hello? If you have a loan in the bank, a material loan, you die and that is it. You are cleared. But when you have these 5 debts, excuse me, you can't just die and escape. If you don't clear it, you definitely come back next birth until you pay them off. The universe has all the resources to keep track of you through endless lifetimes. So we need to be aware that, okay, these debts are there. I need to clear these debts. Until I clear those debts, I'm going to keep getting born again and again. However, the magic, this is the secret. This is the Gupta Jnana. It is, once you get the grace of God, once you succeed through Ananya Bhakti, once God's grace is on you, all these debts are pardoned. But until you get that grace, you have to continue paying these debts. Because that is what is going to give you more opportunities to practice bhakti. See how these are related. So only those things that help you, we said, in the goal of Ananya Bhakti, you have to follow. So pick any of the rituals which are helping you pay these debts. That is also okay. Only a small minority of the population is striving for God realization or engaging in bhakti. You all know that, right? And because we are on the path to bhakti yoga, now we understand what is the purpose of the scriptures. We have to be very careful not to make the majority. See, the minority is following, extreme small minority is following the path of bhakti. And out of that also, extreme small minority actually makes progress and succeeds. For that minority, Narad Ji says, the scriptures are not important. So that minority should not make the mistake of telling the majority that scriptures are not important. Because for the majority, the scriptures are important. But they still have to climb up the ladder. Okay? So don't make that mistake. See, this is why this knowledge is all called confidential by Shri Krishna. Because people can read just a few shlokas here and there, take it out of context. Like just today, I had a healthy argument with a very respected person from the society in our Vancouver forum. He just picked two shlokas from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says that desires are what helps us get material success. No, he takes that one shloka, he puts it on Facebook, and he puts his name and he says, let us all make sure that we have strong desires and focused desires, because that is what helps us achieve. And he's quoting the Upanishad. So I had to step in and say that, why don't you read the next part of the Upanishad? Because this shloka is like setting the context. The next part of the same Upanishad says that these desires bind you to the material world. And our goal should be to get rid of desires. But they are not even going there. They saw one verse which is convenient. They take it, they post it, they publicize it. Similarly, when Narad Ji says the scriptures are not helpful, or when Bhagavan Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna that don't follow the scriptures, people will take that one part, post it somewhere and says, Krishna himself says Vedas are not important. What are you saying? Why is Veda important, right? So we need to have the complete picture. Half knowledge is extremely dangerous. So that is when Narad Ji is closing the loops. He's making sure we don't make that mistake. Don't take things out of context. So Narad Ji here is saying, just because I told you it is not important doesn't mean it is not important to everybody. It is not important only for the small minority who are succeeding on the path to bhakti. It is still important for the majority. They need it. So you have to protect the scriptures. That is part of your duty and responsibility. Now, some practitioners of bhakti yoga may have a deeper question. They may ask, okay, if I am really progressing on bhakti yoga, why do I need to follow any scripture at all? That's a kind of a natural question. No, that is what Narad Ji will explain in the next few shlokas. So I think this much is enough for today. Really thankful and grateful to all of you who are paying attention till the end. Thank you for not falling asleep. Thank you for being attentive. Does anybody have any questions that I can address? Let me do one thing. Let me close the recording and then let me talk about what's on my mind.